Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out. Christ is Lord.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Offensively Accurate, hosted by yours truly, Atlas Thugged, and appreciate everybody for being here on this Wednesday in the middle of October. We have a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of goodies, none of them good, per se, but a lot of moving pieces. Obviously, everybody's still reeling back from the main story and what has taken over the news cycle, which is Gavin Wax betraying everybody, becoming a traitor. Gavin Wax's Benedict Arnold moment. The moment when he decided that he had better interest than his own peers. Now, obviously, Gavin Wax is taking a lot of heat for his role in what had occurred. And I had focused on that with the video I had produced earlier today, which was largely just kind of Nick Fuentes' expel him from politics moment. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I think that is the correct kind of positioning. The left can have him, I think is what I had said on there. I think he needs to be excised from all right-wing political action committees, period. Any political group at all. Gavin Wax needs to be just pushed completely out into the wayside. Hell, at this point, he'll probably move to Israel and he can serve in Israeli politics, or do whatever his role would be with the ZOA or the American Jewish Congress, which I don't even know if he's still a part of, but he probably still works hand in hand with that. For other stories, though, we have some good items. Possibly what's coming to X is the country of origin. It seems to be a new feature that people have been asking for, and people have asked also for other features beyond there, but it looks like coming soon, I don't know how soon, X will soon be able to display the country of origin from the account you're looking at. And this is actually to serve as a pushback to all of the foreign influence that we have, not only just politically, obviously, but on the social media platforms and all the bot accounts, the AstroTurf pages from India. And a lot of people are excited for that to roll out. A lot of people have already said they will block anyone who does not turn that feature on, because obviously will probably imply they're from a foreign country. So that seems to be good. And there's also some smaller pieces with X in terms of its monetization, and we'll get to that. David Ellison, and we have three kind of major stories we're really going to be covering here. And they each kind of have a relation to each other. Two of them really, one of them not so. So David Ellison is actually preparing, who's the son of Larry Ellison, right? I think it's Larry. Larry Ellison, who is in the middle of buying TikTok. And he's like the second richest man in the world. He was the richest man in the world for a short period of time. I believe his net worth is close to around $400 billion. I'm not sure how far away he is from Elon Musk. I know Elon is getting close to being a trillionaire and possibly has deals on the table that could take him there. Thank you very much for the super chat, Lord of the Reed. Yes, IRP, Ian Miles Chungus. And this is part of the issue. Many of these like top account pages, whether it's End Wokeness or any of the ones that kind of the Greek statue pages, it seems to be the common thing. I think it's Inevitable West is the one I'm actually thinking about. They're all based in not here. They are basically foreign actors who are always commentating about their opinions of America, posing as a MAGA American. Meanwhile, they are tweeting from the back of a cat Chinese farm in the middle of the Philippines somewhere, or in Ian Miles Chong case, I think it's Malaysia. So that's obviously concerning, but David Ellison is preparing to officially submit to purchase Warner Bros. HBO and CNN. And this is impactful because this is now multiple moves that have been made by both Larry and David Ellison in the last year and a half. They are essentially getting close to buying up a lot of media. They're buying a lot of entertainment. And this is notable because this tracks. This is typical with what we see with the Jewish population in America, which is their elites typically end up in these fields, and they typically own and dominate and control a lot of these networks. So we're going to cover that a little bit. The thing that is hand in hand with that to a slight degree actually is that the Trump administration is giving $40 billion to Argentina in an attempt to save their economy. I happen to believe there's some other reasons behind that, but it was initially supposed to be 20 billion, forgive me. This was, as of today, as of a few hours ago, this was doubled to $40 billion. Scott Bessent and another billionaire playing a major role in that. And we will cover that here in a little bit. We're just going to do the overview. And then some of the last stuff that we will touch on is we have a new drop for the show today, which we'll get into that too. We have some fat losers crying. We have some more gay stuff happening on the timeline, some smaller cultural pieces like that. But we also got the news that JD Vance is actually going to be attending and doing a Change My Mind-like event with TPUSA at the University of Mississippi later this month on October 29th, I believe. Now, I don't know if this is and I'm going to just say one thing on that right now, which would be I don't think we need to do this anymore. I don't think JD Vance needs to put himself out there or risk doing that. And I'm someone who's not even, particularly fond of JD Vance, but obviously we don't want harm or violence to come to these people. It's just to say, I think this kind of show of force of people continually showing up, like Steven Crowder wearing a bulletproof vest. You also have, someone else had done it too recently. It's kind of like they're not getting it, which is the time for debate is over. Oh, it was Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson sat across the table with Ro Khanna and did a bit today, and they're like, we're not hearing each other anymore. It's like, I don't think you're listening at all. I think actually now maybe both sides are not even listening, period. And this idea that there is going to be any attempt of unity when both of across the aisle, Republicans and Democrats are basically becoming two distinct, human species. And to think that we are going to be able to operate any kind of homogenous culture or creed as a people, it's just not going to happen. And so I think this is more of the same. I'm actually getting close to maybe rechanging the name of the show to more of the same, because that's becoming my new slogan. It's immediately just, every day it is, you see something and you go, oh, this is exactly like this time that happened, 2 years ago. And you know what they say, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And then the main story of today, which you probably saw, the main featured story of today is depressing, but I'm not shocked. And that is that the CIA was given lethal authority to conduct covert operations, or it's now been granted the authority to carry out lethal operations, which just basically means they can now up the ante of their intelligence operations, because the United States is beginning its upping its ante into this campaign against Maduro and wanting to enact regime change in Venezuela. More of the same. And that is the featured story of today. Now, a couple announcements before we get into any of the drops. Actually, the first announcement would be that the New American Vision, the network that I'm going to be a part of with, again, Josh Vandernoord, Zeb Boykin, who are both from Outside the Overton, John Ward, Mainstream Dissident, 1989 Theology, the list goes on. It'll be launching this Sunday, I believe, at 4 p.m. That's going to be taking over the time slot of where the 3CC used to be, Third Continental Congress, that was hosted by John Ward. I'm unsure if he's rebranding that or moving it to a different channel. I'm not sure what he's doing with that, so pay attention to him for what's happening with that. But we will be basically taking that format and then revamping it to include all of us who is a part of the New American Vision. We're getting some logos and some imaging out there. Thank you, Anthony, for subscribing. I should have had the link ready. I'll get the link out there. I'll post it in the Discord. I'll also post it on my X page and otherwise too for you guys if you are interested in subscribing to that. But I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to see where those conversations can go. And we have a lot of people already active in there, both faces and what do they call them? Faces, and there's something else, but basically people who are going to be on the the front end of covering it, and then people also on the back end, whether it's going to be doing scheduling or, topic, all the kind of managerial aspect that goes in there too. And let me tell you, as someone who does this as like a one-man army outside of what the mods handle in terms of Discord and moderation here in chat, it's a boon to have someone else help you in terms of like helping, coordinate, schedule, and talk to people. So that is in the works, and that's going to be happening this Sunday. So pay attention to it. The second thing that I want to have an announcement before I get into anything news, and this is some more housekeeping, is that Michael Johnson, a friend here of the show, a friend also at the Outside the Overton, someone who has been through the ringer. If you will, and those who know him will know exactly what I'm talking about. He's actually working on a video because the time is critical for people to be getting involved. And so the idea here, going back to, do we do the march of the institutions, or do we begin to build out these parallel economies, these parallel infrastructure, this parallel system, this parallel governance? Regardless, if you do choose this path of marching to the institution, you would like to get involved, whether you want to hide your power level or simply just be involved and be forward-facing, Michael Johnson's going to be building or making a video. This is going to cover some of the, I would imagine, the basic elements that go into what it requires in terms of being involved on the local level. So I'm excited for that. I will be reacting. I don't know if I'll just react to it. I might just, just push it here on the channel or watch through it and go over it and dissect it. But I'll also see if Michael Johnson would like to come on the show and we can discuss that as well. I'm in a bit further detail too. That is something I'm very interested in doing myself. But, like everybody mostly basically says is like, what chance will I have with how many words I already have on social media? I'd still like to give it a shot. And hopefully the Overton window moves so that I don't have to worry about, mean tweets being drug up from 2012. But that is the basic overview of what we're going to cover today. We probably are going to hit the 2-hour mark, I would imagine. And also, sorry for being late. But with that, everything, I think that's everything I needed to cover, right? It is. Okay, so with that, we're going to get into the community submission. This is today's community submission. So the community submission today is more on these leaked messages. And really, there's not much to go off of basically about what I had given in the the overview. But this is actually kind of in line with one of the requests I'd gotten. Somebody had actually reached out to me on X, one of the viewers here, I'd imagine. Oh, I would that's where else would he find me? Reaching out and basically asking, to explain a bit more about what had went down with these messages. And all I can tell you is it's not really gone anywhere beyond just the blame. Is kind of really focused more so on Gavin Wax. There was an affidavit, and the AF Post has it here. I'll switch my screen over. This is from the AF Post. The affidavit that was signed by Michael Bartels alleges that Gavin Wax threatened his job to gain access to chat logs for the Restore Young Republican team. Bartels claims that the chat logs were acquired under false pretenses. He was threatened and did not give Politico the chat logs that were the basis of a scandalous article at the GOP and the Young Republicans, targeting the GOP and the Young Republicans. The fallout has divided the Republican Party and resulted in numerous resignations and firing. And now this is kind of picking up where we had left off yesterday, but this is kind of the main point that I'd address here, which is overwhelmingly that the news story is actually less so about this actually happening, these chat logs being given over. The news story is more so of, will the Republicans respond in the expected, slow down their Democrats way, which is, condemning and being their own worst enemy? Or are we going to get a stronger kind of disavowal similar to what we're seeing from J.D. Vance, or not a non-disavowal, I should say, from J.D. Vance, basically saying, you first, as he posted the text from Jay Jones, pushing more pressure onto the Democrats to say, hey, if you're not going to check your own, I'm not going to check mine. And it's kind of an awkward spot to be in, because now I think it's going to open it up for what is Trump going to say about all of this? Who knows if Trump will even give an opinion on that, to be honest with you. But this affidavit is just damning. And let that be known too as well. I think the big point here, and Nick had even highlighted this to a certain degree, was that on this element, one of the big things that he was always debating Gavin McInnes about was the monolithic nature of how Jewish individuals behave, especially in terms of politics and the way that they kind of will band together. And so I find that intriguing because he does highlight Gavin Wax in this moment with Chuck Schumer that I'd never heard of before, because like they got all together for some like Holocaust survivor from Italy, and she like wasn't even there. It's just a crazy story, but I think that point stands, which is the in-group bias remains one of the like the heat map, if you will, the in-group bias, the heat map for conservatives. That remains the, whether you want to call it a challenge or just something we have to deal with or adapt to, that continually finds a way to show its face in politics, which is to say that a lot of what we do, especially here as white individuals, right? I am a white individual, so I'm speaking for white people and white men more specifically, is that we have to, whether we have to manufacture it and it be artificial for some time, we have to find a way to get the in-group bias of our people to match all the other races. And then we will be on even ground. Or what I think would be a lot harder, which would be to get all the other races to behave like us. So what do you think is easier? That white people just go ahead and decide, you know what, we're not gonna sit here and hold ourselves back anymore. We are going to begin to start working on and adopting nepotism. We are going to begin hiring our people. We're going to start hiring our guys into these positions. And whether that's Christian, whether that's white, that nepotism needs to find its way into the mainstream, into this matrix. And Mainstream Dissident had a great actual point about this, which is we just need to behave like our enemies. And it seems to be down the line again as well from like leftist tactics, which are, they clearly were effective. They clearly worked. They clearly got people bothered and they provoked. So that's just a small piece to kind of tie the knot on where that story is right now. I've not seen any kind of public post from Gavin Wax. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that. I would imagine he's probably not going to say a word for a long time. He's probably going to hide his face from the public purview. At the end of the day, I just kind of sit there and think like, what was his end goal here? Right? Like what was, but maybe that's it. Maybe that's the idea, is that he already had somewhere else he was going to go sign on to. And so this ultimately meant nothing to him. And especially as exhibited by Chuck Schumer in that photo of the Holocaust survivor, their in-group preference is second to none. And they will always have their own backs, whether they vehemently hate each other on certain issues or not. That reigns supreme. And ultimately, until white men specifically begin behaving in that manner, I really don't see a lot of this changing. Again, more of the same. For the Argentina story, let's actually go there instead of going to Ellison's story. We'll go to the Argentina story first. So I ended up seeing this post from the More Perfect Union, which I think is pretty left-wing publication. Let me zoom in actually a bit. So I see this from the More Perfect Union. I see breaking: the Trump administration is doubling its Argentina bailout to $40 billion. And when I saw that, I was like, what? And then the first part that got me was the doubling aspect, because I had apparently missed completely the first mention of this $20 billion coming around. So seeing that, I was like, that seems very, very, very excessive. And just like how I see any kind of foreign influence or any kind of the United States giving billions of taxpayer dollars to some foreign country, I'm like, dude, there better be a damn good reason for this. And lo and behold, there's not a damn good reason for this. Once again, more of the same. So this is, if you're not familiar, it's Javier Milei, that is the president, or the leader of Argentina. He's calls himself an anarcho-capitalist. This guy is afuela, right? He had this very viral, very memed out, and seemingly, and now looking back at it, probably was astroturfed. He had this era where basically during his campaign, through his election, he was having all of these hot moments, also being shared here in the United States as well. And lo and behold, it appears that his ideas for, government reform and the kind of hacksawing away, which he did do, he dismantled a lot of different government organizations and some of the branches they had in there that he considered bloat and a lot of people were excited for. I mean, this is the same guy who was on stage with Elon Musk with the chainsaw. And Elon, I think, even credited Javier Milei with a lot of the ideas behind Doge, this idea to entirely start stripping out certain things from the government. And I think he had credited Javier Milei for inspiring him to make Doge. So just to give you an idea of where this came from and who he is, if you're not familiar. But it was initially supposed to be only $20 billion to Argentina, but we doubled it. And so it's kind of curious, well, what's the reason for why we doubled it? Well, none of the news articles I went and found gave a solid answer to that, besides they just needed more money. So here's the breakdown of it. Again, initially supposed to be $20 billion, but we double it. Now it's $40 billion. The argument being from the Trump administration is that Argentina's economy is failing so badly that it's at the point where if it's not saved, it will cause a domino effect onto other countries, meaning that there are even worse consequences beyond just taking the loss of sending over the $40 billion just at random. And it's a bit more complex than just giving them $40 billion. It's actually like in two parts. But to give you an idea of Argentina, the country's poverty rate is over 53%. They are flailing very badly over there in Argentina. So it's also being reported that the administration, and this is part of the first $20 billion, that they had purchased, and this is the best part, an undisclosed amount of Argentine pesos. So this is the first part of the 20 billion, was less so of an actual direct loan, but one of the very few times since like 1996 that we purchased a foreign nation's currency to help bolster it. Basically, we are investing into that country. Same way that people explain the dollar, but inversed, right? The petrodollar. A lot of the reason what helps keep it afloat is the fact that many other countries will use it. It keeps the currency, alive in the economy, and it's exchanging hands. That's one element of it, a simple explanation. So the worst part with this, in terms of America so far, beyond just the investment of money, is that there was a strong agricultural effect to this, which was to say that during a lot of this period, like through this year, at the beginning of the year, during the trade war with China, I guess it's kind of still ongoing, China had halted all purchases of United States soybeans. And when they halted all the purchase of soybeans, they're one of the largest purchasers of U.S. soybeans. And so that hurt American farmers really badly. Cut to Argentina. In Argentina, because of all this stuff going on with their economy, they lifted temporarily a tax on all exports. In that moment, China bought thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of soybeans, basically putting all of our U.S. farmers, the U.S. soybean farmers, out. So there's a big, strong agricultural effect that's hurting United States farmers, which is never a good thing. But the worst part about this is it looks like it actually goes deeper. It looks like there is nefarious ends to this. And so Judd Legum is this independent journalist who I was seeing a lot of this from. I also read a bit from Mother Jones as well, just to give you an idea of some of these the news articles I was looking at. But he covered how Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, has a personal and professional relationship to Rob Citron. Well, who is Rob Citron? Rob Citron is an American billionaire. He is an American billionaire who is also a minority owner in the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a billionaire hedge fund manager and co-founder of Discovery Capital Management. But even more so is he heavily invested and bet on Argentina with a lot of his money. He heavily invested his money into Argentina's economy recovering, meaning he placed a lot of his bets, a lot of money. And he won't disclose how much of his total net worth he did it with, which makes me think it's a lot. So because it's undisclosed, we're just going to make this number as big as possible. So these bajillion dollars that he invested into Argentina. Well, if in April, Argentina starts tanking really badly, it's looking like this billionaire may no longer possibly be a billionaire, losing a lot of money very quickly. So basically, you have this guy heavily invested into this. And what is the connection here, though? How does Scott Bessent connect to Rob Citron? Well, Scott Bessent and Rob Citron both worked with George Soros. They both worked for his helping him manage some of his financials. And I believe that was back in like 2013 with the Soros Fund. And beyond that, Scott Bessent credits Rob Citron, or it's the other way around actually, right? Yeah, it's the other way around. Yeah. No, yes. So it's the other way around. So Rob Citron, forgive me, I've confused myself. Rob Citron on, I think it was in May of this year, and you can find it. There's a 22-minute podcast called from the Goldman Sachs Exchange podcast. Citron had said that he had delivered, quote, a financial windfall for Scott Bessent when they were both working for George Soros back in 2013. Now, there's another quote from Scott Bessent that basically says he credits almost 75% of his net worth to this deal that they had, or this investment that he had made at the behest of Rob Citron because he gave him the advice. He'd convinced him. So Scott Bessent says, this guy helped make me rich. And what it appears to be now, Scott is paying back Rob Citron by wedging himself and being one of the main people pushing for all of this pro-IMF extensions and packages for Argentina. So it's not looking good so far. And so what that bet was back in 2013, Rob Citron had basically told Scott Bessent to bet on the US dollar against the Japanese yen. And Scott Bessent finally got convinced by Rob Citron. He went ahead and did it. Next thing you know, he has a lot of money. So he's probably very, very, very thankful to Citron and probably are good friends after that, I would imagine. So then it starts to pick up here because in April, when the Argentina economy starts really hitting the ground, it's reported that Citron actually intervened before Scott Bessent, where he was advocating for an IMF agreement with Argentina. And so they both end up actually traveling to Argentina after the deal is secured with this IMF extension. So it's not looking good. The overall nature of the story seems to be, and then this doubling of the doubling of the money is there's two elements here. So this money, the first 20 billion was like a currency exchange, which kind of operates similar like to a loan. This extra 20 billion, I've not seen much details about, but it appears like it's just being financed from outside financiers, which looks like it is going to be a direct transfusion of $20 billion of US taxpayer money. I'm not sure what the intended purpose of that is or what they intend to purchase to help bolster the economy. But there you have it. $40 billion of U.S. taxpayer dollars are now once again going to another country. And just this time, it's not Israel. So there's that. It doesn't look good. And I didn't have a good feeling about Scott Bessent. In fact, if many of you remember when he was first actually selected and given the nod for this position, the first things that came out about him was this long history he has for working with Soros and people who are from the Soros network. Now, sure, he might be good with money, but at a certain point, you want to make sure it's your guys around you and your guys to your left and right, no matter if your guys aren't as good as dealing with money. So that's the story there, with the Trump administration giving $40 billion to Argentina. And once again, it is, I think the best thing to say is also more of the same, but Trump is ultimately becoming the absolute opposite of what anybody actually voted for him to be in there for. And none of this is America first by any means. And you could probably make a few different arguments in there. I think one would be it is very, very, very depressing that there's kind of an idea that I have, which is how global is the world kind of economy, and have we gone past the point where it would be too detrimental to the way of life, or too even almost harmful to be able to begin pulling these things back? And it's just sad, right? I think globalism is already entrenched here. It's just financially, less so than it is cohesively with culture, robustly, if you will say. So at a minimalistic stance. And I just wish it would stop. I think everybody is just begging, please, like, Lord have mercy. Like, how are we still sending all this money overseas? And I think that's just in line with the fact of how many people don't have benefits, how many people don't have health care, how many people probably will never be able to retire before they die, how many people are looking at a life where they're paying into a Social Security program that they know is going to run out of money before they get there, ultimately meaning they are paying for someone else to have a vacation or retire and live out their old age, not having to do anything or responsibilities. And I think it makes people even more angry when you think about the fact that the generation that's getting that payout from the youth is the generation that basically raped this nation in the first place. And I think when you think about that, I think people probably might start not paying their Social Security payments before it runs out of money, especially the more that people are become aware and acknowledge the reality with that, especially as it pertains to people's futures and the people who are benefiting from it too. It's I don't want to wish any kind of kinetic anything, physical anything, but people are kidding themselves if they think that we're going to stay here. I mean, I'm beginning to think we have almost less than 5 years at this point. I was starting to think, 20 was maybe even a bit too long in terms of a timeline. Dude, 10 might be even too much of a timeline. The kids are doing okay, but everyone that's involved in these systems. And funny enough that Mr. Moss says this, I've seen this multiple times now from multiple people, even bigger creators, which is just like, they're not going to pay. And how effective would that be? And that's obviously not advice. I'm just saying I've seen this sentiment from a lot of people. What happens if 10 million people do it? What happens if 10 million people do it? The government then says okay, it's just too much to go out and handle. And then the other 350 million go, you're not going to make them pay, then what I pay? That's when society will begin to really unravel. And that's when the private chats from these telegrams will instantly leap, the words will leap off of the page and they will be coming out of people's mouths because they have felt it for much longer than they have been willing to be public with it. And I think that's the scariest part, which is the very common term is slow then suddenly. And that's just how quick it happens. I mean, you can't deny the reality of the way that humans behave, the kind of fallen nature of man, what do people do when they need to survive, right? What do people need to do when they're on an island by themselves and all they have is themselves? Start eating their arms. People will do what they must to survive. And you can't be tangling in your head is that going to be racist if I think that or do that? It's like, you're not going to have time to think about that. You'll have to do. I mean, it'll just be impulse really at that point. You'll just be doing what the first thought you had was, especially in that scary spot. In terms of the second story, though, that's majorly financial, this is the David Ellison, who is, again, preparing to submit, and it says preparing to submit. They have been haggling for quite some time. Between David Ellison, I always get his name wrong. It's David Zaslav. But David Ellison, the son of Larry Ellison, is preparing to purchase Warner Bros., HBO, and CNN. And so it's reported that this has not been the best of negotiations. Let me put the post on screen here so you guys can see it. Not that one. This one. This is from the Journal, and there they are. Larry Ellison and David Ellison, the one on the left being the one who has most recently, or is still in the ongoing acquisition of TikTok, the most pro-Israel Zionist cock you will ever see in your entire life. Actually, no, there's probably worse than him. But he is one of those, just so you are aware. But it's been reported that it's not been the best of negotiations. They're haggling nonstop with each other. It's basically, and I learned this for the first time, so apparently it's called a merger dance. Is like a terminology for it. And so even the media and all these articles are reporting that both teams, so Ellison's crew versus Zaslav's crew, right? These big major elite people, these huge rich guys, they are both working themselves to spin narratives so that it makes the other guys team look bad. And the reason why it matters is because shareholders are involved. So public opinion does matter here, because if people begin selling out or they have differing opinions about what may happen of change of ownership, all of that matters, and it's constantly changing. It's a very fluid thing. Well, obviously if the markets are closed, no, but during when the markets are open. And all of that is to say, I don't think that the narrative will have an effect here, because I think what underpins this is the fact that this is now multiple ventures happening under the Ellisons. And so just in this last year, right, we have, what was it? It was the 1.1 billion purchase and acquisition of UFC, right, by Larry Ellison. You also have the more controversial 150 million purchase of the Free Press, which is Barry Weiss's site, and then she was installed, I believe, at CBS. And the thing there is the Free Press at its highest projections was being reported It's making like $15 million in revenue. And how often does a news publication like last that long? And so even if you were to put that on it would take 10 years to pay back with 150 initial investment. But by that point, you know, what are the chances that a news network makes that money that much continually, that consistently, and keeps growing? And people are going hard at it. I think Ian Carroll had one of the better takes on it, which is like he showed his numbers and he was like, so my show must be worth 450 million. And that's just to say, I don't think any of this narrative matters because I think the Ellisons are willing to take major losses here because they want to own the media. They want to own it. To them, there is no high enough cost. It's just a matter of do they have enough money to send over. And that's why I think the narrative spinning doesn't even matter at all. The merger dance doesn't matter at all. I don't know if there is a cost that these guys would be unwilling to pay. And so think about that. UFC, right? UFC, it's actually, you know, it's a decently sized market, 1.1 billion. Then you have TikTok, a gigantic market. And then you also have, now he owns the Free Press, and there's obviously a bunch of other things that he owns. So those are three major ones just in the last year. And then now you have your son buying Warner Bros., buying HBO and CNN. So now his son will also have media entertainment and news media publication, both. And I think this is when you go, no matter what your political beliefs are, I think that when you see something as clearly conflicted of interest here in terms of a father and a son both owning things with similar aims and goals, I mean, I would just like to see that visualized. I almost thought about making a chart earlier. How much of the market capital is now owned? Like, say these go through, how much would be owned between just this father and son? If you were to look at overall reach and impression, I mean, TikTok would make up the majority, like a big chunk of that. But if you throw in HBO and CNN and all these other ones, how much of the total market share did just a father and son own of America? And beyond that, we know what their best interests are. Their best interest is whatever's in the best interest of Israel. So what's this? What is this going on? And again, more of the same in the idea that we can clearly see overtly publicly there is a major amount of foreign influence, and whether it's just financial, whether it's propaganda, you know, with these advertisements, or whether it's literally physical, they're coming across the border, they're being brought in, they're buying $1 million golden ticket, citizenship visas and all that. It has to stop. And more so than it has to stop, like if it doesn't stop, we are stopped. America is stopped. It's over. And they think the question is how much more of this can we take? And to think too, you see the way that the Democrats respond to Jay Jones, for example, and they're doing all these sly games. Abigail Spanberger sits there silent for like 2-3 straight minutes while she's being questioned about someone that she's endorsed who basically said that he wants to harm someone's children to make them think differently. And then you see, what are your Republicans doing? Getting on their hands and knees. Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm so sorry I ever sent a text that would halfway joke about Hitler. I got so much confidence in our guys. It's got to stop. And I think the thing that I'm most mad about too is like, where are all the MAGA patriots like who said they believed in America first? Where are all of them? Where are the plan trusters, right? What lies are you telling yourselves? What tales are you spinning? Well, and to think too, and we're going to get into the featured story here in a second, or here as we get through this. Now we have now we're in our second regime change under the No New Wars president. We went from Iran to Venezuela. He's been in office for less than a year. Where are my fellow MAGA patriots? Where are the guys who say they care about truth? They're not in a cult. They just like, and this is identical to the way it happened in 2008 with Obama. Right? Hope, peace, change. Change being more so the main one. Major element of what got him elected was the anti-war crowd. I probably told this story like 5 times on stream. He comes out, he becomes Obama. Ain't nobody pushing back. He's black. What could be better than having a black president? He can do whatever he wants. He's black. Yeah, Tix is right. Where's the Worrells? Where's the Worrells covering shit that doesn't matter? That's why dude stays under like 20 live viewers. I know people want to hear about the actual shit going on. And that's going to require you to actually have to criticize Trump. And even more so just on the foreign influence, that more comprehensive and robust, and that touches all of these groups, whether it's CPAC, whether it's any kind of, whether it's TPUSA, any right-wing affiliated organization that calls itself as such, they're all in on it. They're not in on it's probably a poor choice of words, but they're all not doing what we need them to be doing. And whether this is a game of they're like, nobody wants to be the first person to step out in the spotlight, I don't care. And at this point, we're running out of time. So I don't want to be black-pilled. I try my best not to try to black-pill you guys. But I can't quell that element of it. Like that to me is like, I understood that men were becoming weaker and more pathetic and more cowards after all. And I knew this after COVID too, seeing the response to that. Well, here they are. They did COVID, and now it doesn't matter how mad you are. It doesn't matter how loud you get on your TikTok and scream at the top of your lungs. It doesn't matter how long your X post is in the reply. It doesn't matter even if you ratio the literal fucking president, for all that matters. All that matters is when they pushed everyone to the side and said, actually, F you, F your rights, martial law in this bitch. We're just going to write edicts from all these random governors across the nation and do whatever we want. And they saw for the majority of American people, they sat there and took it. They went, okay, these guys ain't going to do nothing. We can do whatever we want. What did you expect? Do you expect the government would all of a sudden like slow down and be like, well, we're going to start really respecting your guys' rights? We had some really strong speeches in there. Some very strongly worded letters going to make us change our mind. Well, now that they have the confidence that people aren't going to do anything, this is just going to keep happening. Until somebody does something. We must beat the nothing ever happens Chud. He has to be defeated, but for good, not for evil. We must find him. We must go on a great journey, Indiana Jones style. The nothing ever happens Chud has to be defeated, but for good. And he has to be defeated very soon, very quickly. Because I don't want to think about if things could get a lot worse. But, you know, they definitely can. I want to speak that into existence as well. We're gonna lighten the mood, actually. We're going to go to something a bit more reactive before we get into the featured story about the regime change in Venezuela. We're going to cover this viral, one of the gayest videos I've ever seen on the entire internet. I'm not even joking you. You guys probably seen it being floated around on X. We're going to take a look at that. I'll offer my thoughts on there. We're going to cover a bit more about the country of origin, the monetization issue on X. And we're going to cover a fat loser, a country artist, crying about ICE. Ladies and gentlemen, the gay of the day. The gay of the day. All right, the gay of the day is actually 3 parts, but this is the gayest by far. So we're going to put this up on screen here. This is the honest marital conversation video that has been going viral like crazy. This is from The Christian Life. I don't know if this is who originally had posted it, but it just says honest marital conversation around sex. And it's not even a minute long, and I struggled to make it through it. So let's take a listen, make sure the audio's okay, and let's do it.
Hey, do you want to go upstairs and play chess?
I'm so tired. Not tonight.
Okay.
It's just the phase of life we're in.
Oops. So sorry, guys. You probably heard double there. Apologize. Got to turn off that other audio output capture. Okay, sorry. Same thing happened with that girl, Casey, but this time I recognized the problem immediately. Okay, we're going to start again.
Hey, do you want to go upstairs and play chess?
I'm so tired. Not tonight.
Okay.
It's just the phase of life we're in.
Honestly, when you say that, what I hear is that we're not going to play chess for 3 years.
I could live without it.
Great.
Is there not a better sign that you have an extreme hormonal imbalance if your wife says out loud, like that's not normal and it's not healthy, right? It's not healthy to not have a sex drive. That is a sign of being unhealthy, especially when she's like, what, late 20s? No, she's probably older than that. But yeah, like early 30s. And you're telling your husband you could probably never. We're not gonna rage cow over this. we're not. But this is to me, watching this guy participate in this video, spot on. What a cuck. Put that on screen. What a cuck. But somehow it gets worse.
That makes me feel really good.
Babe, don't take it personally.
I feel at a loss. I'm trying to be the best partner that I can be and take some of the mental load and give you space so that you can rest. And honestly, I would want to do that regardless of intimacy. But when you still say that you're tired, it starts to feel personal and I don't know what to do.
You've been feeling unwanted.
Yeah, I do.
I haven't been showing you how much you mean to me and that I'm still in love with you.
I appreciate that our priorities have shifted, and I would still love to get back to date nights and having more us time.
I can get on board. Thank you for being honest, and I'm really sorry I was so quick to dismiss it before. I love you, and I do want to work on this.
I love you too, and I want to be close to you.
The saddest thing I had probably seen all day was a post actually about this. And it wasn't like oh, he's gay or he's cucked, and those are things that are all true. It was actually giving a bit more of a serious take on this. And it went something like this. I'll paraphrase. Imagine being this guy. Imagine deracinating who you are as a man. Breaking yourself down to behave like the little doll man, the little gay thing that is presented here. Simply because your wife is making your life a literal living hell if you're not doing this. And then doing everything that she asked. Dancing like a clown, if you will, but it's not even that. It's basically removing his soul, right? Who you are at your core, right? This is he's basically destroying who he is to please this woman. And to imagine doing all of that, ripping out everything that makes you a man at the behest of your wife, who ultimately is not upholding any ounce of her marital, her marital vows, to further be humiliated and annihilated by everyone who looked at this. I mean, that's awful, man. I do hope for the good ending. I hope that this guy sees this and just changes. I hope he sees this and he was like, I made a huge mistake. This kind of behavior, this type of man has to go. And if I have to become an Andrew Wilson and scream and yell and talk shit to every gay guy I see on planet Earth, then that's what I'll do. Has to stop. I'm so tired of this kind of archetype, like defining like who white guys are anymore. And the thing is like I feel bad for him. And John Ward, funnily enough, actually had Myron Gaines on last night. If you guys wanted to see that, it's like an hour long. It was way later than what they'd actually expected it to be, but it was still good. But Myron was asked, he was like, why do you do what you do? And John Ward asked more explicitly, he said, why do you give a shit? And Myron Gaines said, well, I give a shit because I've seen too many broken men. I've seen, when you look at the suicide statistics for men in this country, it is clear and obvious there is a concerted effort to continue this. You don't look at the suicide statistics of males aged 18 to 34 and look at this insane 30-some% rate and go, wow, there must be, wow, you know what men need? More feminism. Anybody pushing that or saying that more masculinity needs to be taken back is actively killing men and is an enemy to men, is an enemy to your son, to the boys in your life, to anyone, any male entity in your life. They are an enemy. This goes for whether it's just feminists outright. This goes for What's her name? Ali Beth Stuckey. This goes for any female Christian pastor, period. Get out of the way. You are not meant to be there. The Bible is explicitly clear in Timothy. You are not to be teaching. I do not. And more explicitly, I do not suffer a woman to teach. Is actually more close to what Paul had written. I will not suffer a woman teaching. What does he mean by that? Wow. Do you think he was probably trying to get across a point that women probably shut up? That maybe we should, I don't know, respect the natural order of God. And this is kind of more to the point. Lying to ourselves. This goes for feminism. This goes for race. This goes for a lot of things. Do you need to be told? Do you need to be told that men are better leaders than women? Seriously? Do you need to be told that black people commit a disproportionate amount of crime? Do you seriously need to be told these things? Does someone have to show you a fact sheet? What has happened to us? That you can't just look at what's going on around you? You have zero intuition? You believe so little in yourself, but at the same time don't believe anything you see online, but still need to see something fact-checked? I think my biggest problem with it, and this isn't like an anti-woman rant, it's my rant, it's actually aimed at men, believe it or not. It's aimed at all of the guys who sit there despite everything and bite their tongue. For what? For what? Biting your tongue because, and that's the reality. It's like, if your relationship is seriously on such rocky shambles that if you were to make one comment to your wife about how she needs to submit to you, that it would threaten your sexual access in your entire marriage, then you fucking suck. And you shouldn't have been in that marriage in the first place. And you make all of us look bad. You make every husband look bad when you are out here getting walked like a dog and being put on a pedestal for it. I'm sorry, I think I was a little loud there. I apologize. But it's irritating. And everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. They see people behaving this way. But on the other side of it, you can see the incel community too. And it's like, oh, I don't know, man. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to think it might actually be better. It might actually be better. And, you know, and when you look at it legalistically too, especially in the light of like Jeff Younger as well. And like, how you expect me? And here's the thing. Love, what is love? Right. In the Christian definition, right? What is typically the first? Love is what? Love is truth. So let's do the transitory property, right? Is truth kind? Not usually. Love is truth. Is lying to yourself any different than lying to somebody else? Is it any greater temporal sin? Probably greater temporal sin, but is it a greater sin in general? And that is what a lot of this that drives me crazy about this is that it is all of these guys on these holier than thou, this I'm on my high horse, I'm a better Christian than you, don't behave like them. And every single one of those guys is a cuck. Every single one of those guys lies to themselves. Every single one of those guys disrespects God's natural order. Every single guy who sits there and says both men and women are co-equal, they share responsibilities, there's no actual real leader in the house, it's servant leadership. Fuck you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. There's probably no other words I could say that I mean more than that. Seriously, I can't stand you. You lie to yourself and then push it on to everybody else. actively inverting and assisting this inversion of the natural order of what is good. And someone put it in the chat earlier. God, man, woman, child. It's that simple. If you can't respect something as basic and as simple as that, and you can't just open your mouth to those kind of ideals, you can't say, yes, that is true. If you can't say, yes, that is how my household is ran, leave the conversation. Why would I tell young men to go get married when we know it's like anywhere from an 89 to a 96% chance that men will get annihilated in family court if they go to family court? And I think the current divorce statistics are well beyond 50%. It's just, I want men and women to be married. I want this to be a Christian nation. But in order for that to happen, the people on my side have got to quit fucking lying. You have to quit being gatekeepers. You have to quit trying to manipulate your interpretations of the word of God and then shove them onto everybody else. We have got to move away from the fact that the number one metric a husband can show in the Christian community about how he's a good husband is how obedient he is. Yeah. And then she tells me to do this. Yeah. I'm not going to crash out, but that shit makes me want to crash out so bad. So bad I cannot explain it to you. And the reason why probably it bothers me a lot is because, are you seriously telling me what's better? I would rather die alone than live every day watching my dignity slowly leave my soul. I don't know. That's just a smaller piece on that. Just prayers for that brother. I mean, in all honesty, let's put him back on screen. Pray for this guy. Pray for this guy. Pray for this guy to open his eyes. Pray for him to just an epiphany. And whether it has to be because he gets brutally shamed on the internet, it doesn't matter. I just hope that he can open his eyes to what the truth is and not live this way. Because, I mean, all the fathers who behave like this and expect and push their sons to be like that too, fuck you. It makes me so angry that we basically have a systemized, conveyor belt from start to finish that basically gets young boys all the way from pre going to school, through school to college, and then afterwards, it's humiliation ritual. It's just different phases. It's just ultimately different phases. I don't know if this is a real couple or not. Who knows? And so we can even we'll add that caveat. Well, maybe this is even fake. But from some of the talks, it didn't seem like it was fake. I mean, but it's from a young age. It's we lie to ourselves, and I hate that. And I've said this a few times. You know, they in elementary school they say things like, women, girlfriends, they want to be treated nice. Cap. Objectively, false. So why do we lie to our young men from like they're 4 or 5 years old, bro, and you're lying to them? So then maybe the question then becomes so why are you so scared of acknowledging a woman's nature? What's on the other side of that? Is my country on the other side of that? Is not sending $50 billion to Israel on the other side of that? What is on the other side of that you want to protect from so bad that you lie every step of the way? That we're getting to a point that we very well may have legitimate, like for the first time in American history, actual cells of just radical men who are behaving like they're in the Middle East because they've just been so far removed from sexual access and they're just so unwilling to do any of these social mechanisms that would provide that to them. But that's why I also think nobody cares. Nobody actually cares about making things better. They're just caring about how much, like Tim Pool says, how much of this fancy silverware can I get off the Titanic before the whole thing goes down? And then you're going to leave me holding the bag. You're going to leave all of us here holding the bag. Anyone under the age of 45 holding the bag. I have children. And I'm supposed to place my trust in that? Dude. it's almost it like say someone saying that to me is like, are you rage baiting me? Are you trying to bait me right now? You trying to get me to act like that dog in that funny meme where he's like, there's like yelling through the fence. But no more. Anytime you see somebody lying, we just got to call them out. Just you are lying to yourself. Lying. And that goes for race too. This is the same thing. Like even Destiny, right? Let's throw Destiny a bone. Hate doing it, but we will. Even Destiny on a famously uncovered clip says, I don't have to be told that N-words commit disproportionate amount of crime. Or I'm paraphrasing very strongly here. That's a leftist streamer, dude. It's only people who have something to gain from you. It's why they push that lie. It's only people who are self-serving and have no interest in what is actually true or real. That is who pushes that shit. So anyways, we'll do something a bit funnier. The country of origin is actually coming to X, and that is actually pretty cool. I'm excited to have the USA next to my my profile here. This is from the Insider Wire. Let me put this on screen, actually. And get rid of this. This is from, Insider Wire. X will soon be displaying every user's country of origin on their public profiles. Actually, I also forgot my camera was very big. Sorry. Well, the reason why this is cool is because this will begin to be a push against the foreign influence that we see on a lot of these platforms. And so even if it doesn't censor them per se, it will also now provide a disclosure. And whether that's just based on where they're from and not the paid sentiment that they're being paid to post certain things, it's still a step in the right direction. And I think that's good. Now, on the other side of that, what we also got, and this is from Raw's Alert, almost like within 12 hours of each other, or a lot closer to each other, to be honest. This is from Raw's Alerts. Breaking, an ex-executive has reportedly suggested that the platform may discontinue its creator monetization, claiming the initiative has ultimately caused more harm than benefit to the platform and its community. And they said, maybe we know who, and it looks like they don't have an idea of who that is. And so there you have one of these people who I follow, typically does good work, also says he thinks it's fake news or unfounded. But there has been talks about that. There have been talks. And I don't know if that's a good thing to go with, but Matt Walsh showed again that he is very not with the times, if you will. And he made a post basically saying good. That's good. And he's just getting torn apart for it, which is, for a lot of people, it's like for the last year, they've been putting a lot of effort and work into building content. Right? Elon Musk had this big pull and push for people to start bringing all of their stuff over here. And, and I'm sure for Matt Walsh, who doesn't need any money like that because he's way up there somewhere. If Matt Walsh, can you hear me? He says, wow, it's good. Who needs to make money on this platform? I have all the shekels I get from the Daily Wire. And I'm not even trying to be rude to him, dude. It's just he continually shows that he is not speaking for the average man in this country. He has great points, but he's not relatable whatsoever. He doesn't. He just does. He can't relate. You can't be a millionaire for that long and then relate to the guy who lives in the trailer park. Period. You just can't. And that'll just happen just naturally from just not being stressed, not worrying about normal things that people who don't make $1 bajillion will have to worry about. And then he continued this by also in another tweet, he had posted something along the lines of, in reference to the messages in this big Telegram story, from Gavin Wax. He says, I don't even think group chats are cool. I've always not enjoyed being in them. He's like, I think I've responded once. It's who's not in a group chat? Who's not in a bunch of different group chats? Who doesn't also have typical funny things that happen in group chats? It seems to be Matt Walsh, is there a competition you're having with somebody to show how outdated you are? How far away your finger is from the pulse of what actually is happening? Is that what you're trying to do? A competition to see who's so higher up in their ivory tower? Well, anyways, more of the same guys. What did you expect in that? Not me, not I. But that's some information there on X and that platform, having some of those changes. This is the fat loser I spoke of earlier. This is supposedly some guy who makes country music. He looks exactly what I just said, a fat loser. He crashes out, like what you see on there on screen. Now, this is from Dom Luker. I think that's how you say his name. So he's a rising country singing star, Brian Andrews. So if any of you guys know who this is, I do not know who this is. I also barely listen to music, and if I did, I definitely wouldn't listen to country music. But this is a crash out, and it's 3 minutes long. We don't have to listen to the whole thing. I already watched the first minute. You'll get the idea after we listen to about the first minute or so. Let me make sure it's turned down a little bit because he rages like a... Nope, can't say that word on YouTube. Okay.
Oh, he's crashing out. You want to crash out? Fine. I'll fucking give you one. If we don't wake the fuck up soon, and I mean quick, fast, and in a fucking hurry, we are fucked like a football bat.
So I got this far and I was like, oh, dude, like, okay. I was like, yeah, he's right. He's right. And then he said this.
Got the Department of Homeland fucking Security out here sharing hype videos of ICE agents flying in on American cities, banging in doors, jacking people out of their houses, zip tying them in the streets naked, and then carting them off in the back of U-Hauls with no warrants or due process like it's a fucking trailer to the newest Call of Duty game. And the worst part is, I gotta watch some of y'all cheer it on like you're watching a fucking football game.
And it was at this point I was like, oh, he's gay. He's gay. And then it confirmed to me why I will never listen to country music at all. I've actually long had this theory that every country star is like, when they break, when they break people's backs in Hollywood, those are all the ones that liked it. All the ones that liked it when they had their meeting with Harvey Weinstein end up doing country music. That's kind of my theory there. Because there's so many of these guys exist in the country music field and I can't stand it. Like, I'll turn a country concert into a mosh pit, dude. Let's do it. No, I'm just messing. It was a joke. That is a joke. But then he targets Christians.
The cherry on top of it all, I gotta sit here and listen to you all call yourselves Christians? Bullshit. You don't get to call yourself a Christian and then advocate and fucking laugh when families are torn apart outside of courthouses of people trying to come here the right ways. You don't get to call yourself a Christian and then think it's okay that the highest court in the fucking land just gave a green light to ICE agents to be able to fucking target people because they are brown or speaking Spanish. It makes me...
Now, I issued a duel to this guy on X, but they were not going to respond to it. But I don't need to watch anymore, and quite frankly, it'll just piss me off if I have to listen to him anymore. This is, what is this archetype of guy? What is this Shane Gillis archetype, dude? Because they are seriously some of the most disgusting and gayest people I've ever met in my life. They're like, this guy right here is going to be the first guy in the room that's going to, like, randomly for no reason at all, he's going to say he has a small PP, right? He's going to randomly bring it up. He's going to be like, you know what? He's like, you know what? I do have a small one. Bro, what? Bro, sir, this is a Wendy's. It's this self-hating archetype. That's what it is. This self-deprecating, self-hating, they join in. They're like, yeah, I am too white, right? Like they try to get social clout points by hating themselves. And society cheers it on. And then you get more of them. And then then for him, he just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but not in the country world, just physically. What is this archetype? And but it's a rising country singing star, Brian Andrews. And to think like, what, country was supposed to be like dominated by conservatives? And then this guy who's literally probably never even read more than just the gospel of the Bible is out here calling people bad Christians. Hey dog, I'm going to say it probably to you the nicest way any Christian national will say it to you. You need to go read your Bible again. You have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. That's actually very accurate. I would imagine that is true. That is probably very, very true. Don't know what that archetype is, but there's a lot of them. There's like multiple variants of the self-hating white man. They come in different shapes and sizes. There's like 3 different kinds. Which one do you want? Do you want the racially cucked? Do you want the actually cucked? Or do you want the self-hating cucked? I don't know, man. I don't know. And truth be told too, like, yeah, the pick me guys as well. That's actually a good one. I'll always say what's socially acceptable guy. Yeah. The white knights as well. it's aggressive, dude. Like, it is aggressive. But what's the solution to that? Bullying, shaming, humiliation, like humiliating people like this. Like, this guy needs humiliated. Whether it's in front of his family, whether it's in front of his friends, I don't care who it's in front of, dude. He needs humiliated. He needs humiliated in such a degree that it alters his life from that moment, and it can never be the same after that. Every moment, every word he ever utters from this moment forward for the rest of his life, he needs to think about, wait a minute, I made that one video that one time. That's what needs to happen to that guy. And we got to, for whatever reason, how all of these people, and part of it's part of the plan, but all these people in these positions of influence, these rising celebrities, the influencers, and they're always just the worst people. Just the literal worst person on planet Earth. So, with that, though, we are going to get into the featured story. We're going to go back into the serious nature of what is going on. We're not going to be covering fat people or gay guys anymore. We're going to move on to something actually serious. And that is the fact that the United States is once again involved in regime change in Venezuela. And so this has been an ongoing thing for quite some time. I'd imagine many people here are probably privy to some of the video footage that's been up running on CNN 24/7 for certain days and weeks. But this has been on the back of a lot of different news cycles. And it was never really like the news of the day, but it was like somewhere towards the top. And especially when like we got that video of the boat getting like blown up to pieces. I think even JD Vance had posted that himself. Either him or his Seth, I can't remember. But that was supposedly the reason why they're gloating with all this footage and, blowing up all these random, ships off the coast of Venezuela, is because it's under the idea that we are there to stop the drug trafficking. Now, these have been some of the claims that have been coming from the Trump administration. And some of those claims are, one, that Venezuela is a majoritively or pluralistic entity in this drug trafficking element coming across the southern border and northern border as it relates to fentanyl and otherwise. And secondarily to that, the additional claim by the administration is that Nicolás Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, who they are trying to get out of power, they allege that this guy is the head of Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua may sound familiar because there was a very, very, very viral story that I had also covered too in Colorado, where Tren de Aragua members had basically taken over an apartment complex and the authorities weren't doing anything. And then somebody, I think it was the mayor, said like it wasn't happening. And it was like this very, very odd story that very clearly was proven to be true, because then we got like doorbell footage of someone breaking into somebody's apartment trying to extort them for money. So Tren de Aragua is this cartel. It's this cartel that has been moving through the United States. They have different outlets throughout the majority of the nation, and it's been that way because of how open and wide open, I should say, the southern border has been for quite some time, especially under Biden. But the claim, though, is that Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, is facilitating a lot of this. Thus, that's what's giving them their casus belli, their rationale to what they did earlier today, which was now authorize the CIA to be able to do lethal operations, both in Venezuela and the Caribbean at large. Or I think just parts of the Caribbean, actually. Forgive me. I'll take that back. And the military buildup to this point has actually been pretty substantial. We have over 10,000 troops stationed over there now. The majority of them being in, majority of them are actually in Puerto Rico. And then we do have a marine contingency that's built up with a bunch of different amphibious assault vehicles in different positions, like strategic positions throughout the coast of Venezuela too. But it was Trump himself who ended the diplomatic talks. Typically, what we have seen from the Israel, Gaza, and Iran is that it's everyone else not coming to the table. It's why are these guys not getting along? Here's Trump trying to bring peace. In this case, Trump ended the negotiations himself. He ended the diplomacy. He was angry that Maduro would not himself relinquish power. And he was angry that Maduro had consistently denied that there was no drug trafficking, not to the level that the United States is alleging. And also, he denied that he has no affiliation with Tren de Aragua. And that pissed Trump off to the point that they said, you know what, no more diplomacy. And Trump declared a second war on drugs, but this time a war on drug cartels. Now, this, I think, actually should have been a lot bigger news than what it was, because I wasn't even aware that there was a congressional notice that basically said that Trump was determined to wage this war against the cartels. No new war president, most transparent administration ever, golden age. I'm going to add all of that anytime Trump does something like this anymore. And so now the CIA has lethal authority. And the reason why that's important is because the report is that they have lethal authority. Not that they have now been given authority to conduct operations, because they already had that authority. They've already been conducting operations. This notice is to just let you know that the ante has been upped, and now it looks like that we're probably going to get some, I would imagine, some destabilizing events, which will more than likely involve either whether it's a rebel group or some kind of resistance group, or it will just be straight up just assassinations being carried out by the CIA. America is going to begin its regime change in Venezuela. And what does that typically result in? Well, a lot of times it results in refugee crises, because it's a very chaotic element. And so, not like we already have enough Venezuelans coming across the border as it is. Here we go. Let's get a lot more. And you look at who is pushing this from inside the Trump administration, who's pushing this, beyond just Trump, and well, none other than Marco Rubio and the CIA director himself, John Ratcliffe. What do those guys have in common with each other? Well, they are both not only just discussing human beings, but they are both in the pocket for Israel. Ratcliffe might as well work for the Mossad at this point. Marco Rubio, famously in the pocket of the Ellissons before Trump was in the pocket of the Ellissons. And they are war hawks. Well, more explicitly, Rubio is a war hawk. Ratcliffe is like, we don't even know. We just know he's like with the Mossad, and he's got this always this gump look on his face. Like, he's just annoying. But even Bannon recently has gone on some stronger rants about Ratcliffe's very, very strong connection to the Mossad there. I was just blown away that it was Trump who not only ended the negotiations, but then also pushed a congressional notice that verbatim says determined to push for this war on the drug cartels. And to top it all, everyone's going along with it. To top it all, John Goyle and Captive Dreamer and the usual actors are all saying, here's why it's a good thing, here's why it should be happening, here's more, or people are just not talking about it, they're omitting it. I mean, we have 10,000 troops stationed in Puerto Rico right now. Are we at war with Venezuela? In Trump's eyes, we are. And there we are once again, the no new wars president being everything that he is not. But ultimately, I think that was the intention, obviously. I think the intention with the Trump presidency was to convince you guys that this was the Trump of 2016, and he was here to enact revenge in his second term. And all we have gotten, again, is more of the same. I hate to leave it on a black pill, hate to leave it on a poor note, if you will, but that is basically a gist of a lot of the stories going on today. I do agree, going back to the story at the top of the hour, Gavin Wax needs expelled permanently from all of Republican and conservative circles. He needs to wear the liberal badge for the rest of his life or never attempt to get into politics again. Maybe he can make it work solo, independently. So be it. Even on a brown note, yeah, that's funny. No, I'm not going to do that. What I would like to extend, here towards the end, is Christ is King. Nothing's actually ever impossible. God is good, and God is all powerful. And so I think you can never write off everything at the end of the day, no matter how bleak it may look. And it's looked bleak in history before. It is just to say, though, I may start changing my direct attack target, because it's getting closer and closer, or not closer. It's getting more and more apparent to me that the women question needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed rapidly, quickly, and shut down. In any way possible that we can get that solved first, I will get behind it. I don't care what allegiance I must have to sign my fealty to. We need the 19th repealed, and we need better and stronger Christian leaders that aren't lying to people about what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what marriage is. They are blatantly raping the nation. You are raping people mentally, psychologically, all of it. Can't have it. Can't have it. And with that being said too, I wish I could sit in like a fly on the wall and be there when these pastors are being called to answer for the way that they misled their flocks. But you know, there's no good in that. Obviously, we just want to be better. But with that though, Christ is King. Make sure you obviously are staying involved with your Bible as well. Make sure you are either going to church or listening to a great podcast like Stone Choir or the Right Response Ministries, and there's a bunch of other good ones. You guys know that. But make sure you're also staying involved. Don't get too far away from it. I know sometimes I can get too busy and fall out of it. And then I will notice that I'm probably not behaving in the best of lights or the best of behaviors that I should be. And for that too, men, if you are married, be an example. Write out stories. Explain the ways that other men can follow suit. And if you're in a marriage where you get yanked around like a dog, keep your mouth shut. We don't want to hear your opinion because it's worthless. And with that is probably where I'm going to end it. I appreciate you guys greatly, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Take care.
Get up and get out. Get out. Get out.
I have a question for you.
Say Christ is Lord. Say Christ is Lord. Say it. You say Christ is Lord. Get out. Get out.